Hello, everyone, and welcome to Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin, and today I'll be discussing Love in the Afternoon from 1957, starring Gary Cooper, Audrey Hepburn, and directed by Billy Wilder. All right, so let me share some behind-the-scenes details about this film. Gary Cooper was very pleased with his performance and very disappointed that the majority of critics thought he was miscast due to his age. Indeed, the film's box office failure was largely attributed to him being considered too old to play Audrey Hepburn's lover. In April 1958, he had a full facelift and other cosmetic surgeries, but the procedure was largely unsuccessful. All right, so those are some details about the film. Now let me share my thoughts on the plot. So the plot, I gave it a 3 out of 5. I think I agree with the critics. I think the romance was a hard sell for me between Audrey Hepburn and Gary Cooper. Not just that he was too old for her, but also because it just felt they never really connected. You know, there was no real romantic scene. I mean, there were romantic scenes, but there was nothing that I felt really put them together. It felt very forced, right? Nothing. It just seemed like they were getting together for the sake of getting together for the film, not that they had actually fallen in love or anything like that. You know, there's other examples of stories like this where there's an older man and a younger woman falling in love, and I think they're just better executed. This one, not so much. I thought the plot and story was boring. And one scene that I'm thinking of in particular, he's sitting, listening to her recording of all the men she's been with or whatever, obviously a lie, but it just showed me that he was kind of hamming it up a bit, not really acting in his best. Gary Cooper has been in a lot of good films, even some with Billy Wilder, like Ball of Fire. This was not a good performance by him. I think he really struggled, and I don't know if it was his age, because I think he died in 1961, so only 4 years after this movie, and you could tell, the way he would talk, he sounded really, really slow and really old. I think he was kind of already in that stage of being really, really old. I just don't know if all of his faculties were there, if you know what I mean. He just wasn't the Gary Cooper I loved in Ball of Fire. So I was pretty disappointed with that. And anyways, that's what I thought overall of the plot. I'm kind of already talked about that with the acting. Again, their romance was forced. Didn't feel a connection at all. And I just think that Gary Cooper was just not at his best, which is so sad because he was a good actor, but this was not a great film with him. And another scene I'm thinking of with them acting, with Hepburn and him, they're in these fields, and the way he's just talking and the way she's responding, it sounds so fake. There's no emotion to it. There's no real connection with it. It feels so forced, and I was not a fan of it. That's why I gave it a 3 out of 5. Now, the other actors were fine, and I thought Hepburn, for sure, was the better of the two. But she plays the same character in all of her films. I just think they've both been in better movies, and this is not a great film. So, 3 out of 5. Let's move on to directing. So, directing, I gave it a 3 out of 5 as well. I thought Billy Wilder did just okay, not great here. He's had some much better romances. And again, a better similar storyline with a young woman falling in love with an older man. The film Sabrina from 1954, also starring Audrey Hepburn and Humphrey Bogart. That's a much, much better film. Their romance felt real and their connection was real. This film did not have that at all. I think it was definitely miscast, and I don't think the story was really set really there, because once they started to fall in love with each other, the film kind of slows down and it's not that interesting. I don't know. I just think there was no spark between them, and that's why it was really tough to get through. So that's why I gave it a 3 out of 5. Okay, in regards to cinematography and special effects, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I thought they did fine here. There were some nice set pieces, great costumes, great camera angles, but nothing enough to really pique my interest. it just felt pretty generic, and I was very, very disappointed with it. But I'll give credit where it's due. Like there's nothing wrong with the camera work. It looks great. But yeah, it's subpar story. That really brings it down for me. All right, now moving on to the music. I also gave it a 4. You know, the music is actually great. They have a lot of classical music and um, music that's made in the film. I thought it fit really well with the story. Even if I didn't think the execution of the story was great, I thought the music itself was good, though. It definitely helped elevate some of the scenes, and I think it's a huge integral part of the story. I was pretty impressed with it. But it's not perfect because even that good music wasn't enough to convince me that they loved each other. It just seemed, just some of the way he would deliver his lines, it just sounded a little creepy, you know? And I hate to say that because normally I'm like, oh, it's, you know, old movies, whatever. Like, you give it a pass. It's very different from how we are today. And I think some people overreact for sure. But in this case, I was like, no, I could see it. It's a little strange. And I think if he was only 10 years older, it would have been better. Because I think he's like 30, almost 30 years older than her. But I think, too, I want to say he was like a heavy smoker or something like that. You could tell he was not doing very well health-wise. He looked very frail, which is crazy. Because he was just in high noon like a year or two before. And he was fine in that. So, at least from the clips I've seen, I should say I haven't seen the entirety of that film. I would like to. Just from the clips from that, though, especially the end of that where he's in the shootout, he's fine. But anyway, I thought the music was fine. Probably the highlight of the film. It definitely piqued. It definitely kept my interest. It was like, okay, yeah, at least I have that to look forward to. But yeah, that's why I gave the music a 4 out of 5. All right, so now the overall score. So tallying that all up, that brings it to a 3.4 out of 5, which is a 3 out of 5, or 68% on Criticlist. And let me break down my Criticlist score. There's no graphic language. As regards to violence, there's a minor character and subplot where this guy, he finds out his wife's cheating on him with Gary Cooper's character. And so he enlists the help of Audrey Hepburn's dad, who's a private investigator, and that's how she finds out about him and whatnot. She falls in love with him that way. But it's not like actually violent, if that makes sense. Like he threatens to kill his wife and whatnot, but he's kind of a bumbling doofus, and he messes it up because he shows up, and they very cleverly hid his wife, and it was just Audrey Hepburn and Gary Cooper in there. But like, there's no actual violence, just threat of it. And again, it's made for laughs. It's not super serious at all. All right. For nudity and sexual content, just some kissing, discussion of infidelity, like I was mentioning, but no nudity or anything like that. Very, very tame. Political bias, none. Family friendly. I'd say it's very family friendly. Like, kids would have no issue watching this film. There's nothing egregious or anything like that. I do think they'd be bored, though. This movie's over 2 hours long. I don't know if they'll be able to sit that long with it. And not to say that kids can't sit through older films. I just think this is not the best one. It was hard for me. It was a very long film, and because of that lack of connection, it seemed even longer. So I would say it's somewhat. Because, like, I love the Inspector Dad. I thought he was a great character. Would have liked more of him. And I liked some of the musicians too. But other than that, it's just okay. It's somewhat entertaining. And so with all of that, would I recommend this movie? No, not really. I think Gary Cooper has been in better films, in better Billy Wilder films like Ball of Fire, like I was mentioning. I think he's great in that. Audrey Hepburn's been in better movies too. And again, a better Billy Wilder film in Sabrina, which is also a better version of this story. I don't think they were written around the same time or anything like that. I just think that one was better executed, more believable of the romance between the younger woman and the older guy, with Audrey Hepburn and Humphrey Bogart. That was just a much better story and felt more realistic. This one seemed a little contrived, and And it just wasn't there. There was no connection between them. And again, very disappointing because I really like both of these actors. So for a while, I didn't like Audrey Hepburn. I thought she kind of played the same character and whatnot. And that kind of holds true in this film. But I liked her in Sabrina. That's a great film. And Breakfast at Tiffany's. So those are the two films I've liked her in so far. But I haven't liked many of the other ones. I still think Katharine Hepburn is the better Hepburn, even if they're not related. I like to pretend they are in some way. She's the better of the two. Audrey's definitely not the best. That's just my opinion. All right, but those are my thoughts overall on Love in the Afternoon from 1957, and that concludes today's movie review.